What's going on, guys? It's David, WRDK713, here from the deserts of Arizona. Today I'm going to be doing a follow-up to my original MXT575 video, and we're going to be doing the setup and repeater programming for the brand new MXT575 50-watt radio from Midland. But first, a big shout out to Midland for sponsoring this video. Let's get in the Jeep.
All right, we're here in the Jeep. Air conditioning on, of course, because it's 104 degrees with humidity today, so that is essential. Anyway, as you can see, I already have the 575 mounted and direct wired to my Jeep's battery. One of the very first things you'll notice is the addition of the fast USB-C charging port that's been added to the 575. There were later revisions of the 275 that were released that did have a USB-C port added, but the video that I did of mine was a much earlier model that did not have this. So this is a much welcome addition. Over the last week when I've been doing my testing, I've had my phone and AirPods plugged into it, and it charges just as fast as any other car charger you might have. This is very nice if, say, you have this radio mounted in a tractor or a piece of farm equipment where you may not have access to a traditional 12-volt socket or anything like that. So, as you'll see, much like the MXT275, the 575, all of your controls, buttons, screen, and the like live on the handset. So we'll go ahead and fire it up here with the button on top. You got your power and channel select buttons here. Hold to power on. And one of the next things you'll notice is next to the channel numbers, you have the letter N. That is because this radio is capable of switching between wide and narrow band. Narrow band being 12.5 kilohertz, wide band being 25 kilohertz. I tend to leave my 1 through 7 frequencies on narrow band because more often than not, if you're on one of those frequencies, you're probably going to be talking to somebody that's on a handheld, and handheld radios are typically limited to narrow band to 12.5 kilohertz. So for compatibility's sake, it is very nice to have this option on here. I'll show you how to change that when we scroll around the menu here in a second. But you got your buttons up front here, your volume up and down, your menu, call, lock, your weather button, which is really nice, your monitor key, your, I call it the channel surf button, but your channel scan button. That is the mount limit 650 going off here. And your repeater channels. Okay. On the side, you have your PTT, push to talk, and on the other side, you have your jack for a headset, if you wanted to use that, or for a external speaker. There is also a jack on the back of the base unit if you have one of the sold separately intercom units that you wanted to use. So that's your basic setup here. Now we're going to take a cruise around the menu. When you're going through your menu, always remember that your lock key is more or less your OK or enter button. It's important to remember because if you don't hit the lock/OK key when you're doing your settings, nothing will be saved. So it is important to remember that. Just like on the 275, but I had several comments on my last video, and the questions involved why aren't settings being saved. And this was the reason why. And I'll show you that in a second. So when you're scrolling through your menu here, on your Simplex channels, that is, because there are a couple different settings on your repeater channels. I'll also show you that in a second. So you have your PT for your privacy tone, your squelch option. 4 is the default. I tend to leave it there because the squelch on this radio is much more sensitive than I've had on other radios, which is not a bad thing, especially at long distances, of course. But turning it all the way down to 1 or even 0, which 0 opens the squelch completely up, by the way. It's like a permanent monitor button. But I tend to leave mine at 4, which is the default. Keeps out most of the junk noise and lets in what you want to hear. But That is different than the 275 and other Midland radios. The squelch is far more sensitive. This is your squelch option. Your RB for your Roger beep, on or off. That's just when you key down, the other person on the other end will hear the beep if you prefer to have that on or off. CA for your call option. Again, to change the setting, hit the lock key, and then you move over here to adjust. And of course, you can change your call option there and then use it with set call button here on the front. RP, now this is important. This is for your repeater channels. They do not come on by default. They are by default turned off. So when you first turn on your radio, get it installed out of the box, you'll have your 1 through 7 and your 15 through 22 Simplex channels. And then as you'll see, once you scroll past 725 on channel 22, you'll just go back to channel 1. Now to enable your repeater frequencies, you will find your RP option in your menu. Hit the lock key to move over here to the other side. And that's when you can select on or off, and then hit lock to confirm. If you do not hit lock to confirm, let's just turn it back off. Okay, so you'll see that we're off here. No repeater channels. But, so RP, lock to move over, and then on, if you do not hit the lock key to confirm, it'll go back to the main screen and it'll appear that it's been saved. However, if you go back or up, 17 through 22, you'll see still no repeater channels. So, okay, RP, lock to move over here, up and down, on or off, lock to confirm. Now, when you go 1 through 7, and then 15 through 22, you will now have your 8 repeater frequencies. And again, for those who may not know, you'll notice it jumps from 1 through 7 right to 15 through 22. That's because channels 8 through 14 are your FRS only channels, which are limited to half a watt. And the 575, even at low power, does not transmit below 5 watts. So obviously we are way over the power threshold to transmit on 8 through 14 here. So Midland has just gone ahead and removed them from the radio. So that's why you go right from channel 7 to channel 15 through 22. And then your channel 15 through 22 repeater frequencies. I already have a couple of them set up, but I will show you how to program those here in a second once we finish going through the menu options. This is the DB is your display background. Again, lock to then move over to this side for the settings. Got your different colors here, which is it's a nice touch. I like that you can change your color here. I usually leave it on 3 for teal, my favorite color. But you got a red, green, blue, purple, red, different shade of green. So that is a nice little customization touch there. BS is your band select. As I was mentioning earlier, the radio is capable of narrow or wideband, and this is how you change it. And it is on a per channel basis. So like say here for channel 1, for FRS1, we have the N here. If we go into our menu, band select, lock to move over, move it to band wide, lock to confirm. Now you just see 01, no N next to it, which means it's in wideband. If it's in wideband, it won't have any letter next to it. If it's in narrow, you'll see the N. So now channel 1 is in wideband, but if we move up to channel 2, and so on and so forth, they are still in narrow band. So it is on a per channel or per frequency basis that you have to change the wide and narrow banding. And again, I leave my 1 through 7 on narrow for compatibility with handhelds. BP, that's just your Roger beep. I believe I already mentioned that. So that's all your basic menu options. So now that your repeater channels are on, you can scroll to your repeater frequencies here. And we're going to do the the 575 here, local to the Marana, Arizona area, part of the Marana Tucson Community Radio Network. And so when you go into your settings on your repeater frequencies, you do have the same options, but there are two added ones as well. And that is, now instead of just PT for privacy tone, you have TC and RC. That is because this radio is actually capable of doing split tones on repeater frequencies for the transmit and receive side. So you can have one tone for your transmit and another tone for your receive. That is important because, at least in my experience these days, a lot of repeaters are using split tones for security reasons. It keeps out a lot of the riffraff. So when you're on your repeater frequencies, and as you'll see, channel 16 RP, if I were to go to 16 Simplex, I do not have the split tone option. I just have PT for one privacy tone on the transmit and the receive. So the split tone capability is only for the repeater channels. So we're here. And let me just go ahead and clear these settings out real quick so I can show you how to do it. Okay, so we're on channel 16 repeater here. And one thing that's important to mention is that Midland uses a conversion table that you can find in your user manual here. And what I mean by that is you have all your frequencies here for the tones, CTCSS and DCS. And the frequency itself corresponds to a number. So instead of punching in the exact frequency for the tone, it corresponds to a code. Now, the Marana 575 here does not use a split tone. It has the same tone on the receive and the transmit. And the tone for that is 79.7. So as you can see, that corresponds to code number 5. So back on our radio here, we have RC for receive and TC for transmit. So on the RC, you'd hit lock to move over, then change it to your corresponding tone technology, either DCS or CTCSS. In this case, it'd be CTCSS. Hit lock to confirm. And then you have your options of code 1 through 38, which corresponds to the frequency. In this case, 79.7 corresponds to code 5 on the receive for RC. And then on the TC on the transmit, again, lock to move over. DC, CT, lock to enter. And then up to code 5 for 79.7. And then now we have our repeater programmed in with the appropriate tone denoted by code 5, which corresponds to 79.7 hertz. And now that we have that programmed in, we're just going to go ahead and give her a test. The 575 is approximately 20 miles from me, over big mountain range, trees, and lots of other radio interference. But with 50 watts of power, I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration to give you guys an idea of just how powerful this thing is. WRDK713 testing 575.
W462, got you loud and clear.
I appreciate that, buddy. Just testing out the 575. I appreciate the comeback.
Roger that, partner. I'll be standing by for you. Sounded real good on my part. Crystal clear, no static whatsoever. Where's your 20?
I'm at my house, approximately 20 miles from the repeater. Over the mountains.
Roger that. You're coming in crystal, man. Working real good.
And then as you can see there on the bottom, when I was receiving from Riley there, WSCW462, it does show the signal strength. Got your code here, and your power option right there above my nail. Of course, we're on high for 50 watts on the repeaters. If you do have a split tone, when you so on your receive side here, when you're not doing anything, transmitting or receiving, you'll see your repeater channel and your receive tone. Now, when you transmit, of course, the 575 here just has the same tone on the receive and the transmit, so it doesn't change from the code 05. But when you transmit on a split tone repeater, this one, for example, WRDK713 testing Tucson 600. You can see that when you transmit, the code briefly changes over to whatever code and tone you have set for the transmit. All right, so there's that. And that's the only difference in the menu options as far as being on the repeater channels. My testing over the last week has been phenomenal. In fact, let's see if Riley wants to test Simplex here. Hey, Riley, you want to test out Simplex 575 for a second?
But I'm on a handheld. I might be able to reach you, but I don't think I'll get out to you. I'll try to.
All right, TAC 575.
I'm going to put the tones in real quick, though. Take me a couple seconds. Speech you there.
Copy that. Okay, so let's go over to our Simplex side, channel 16, 575, and we're going to put in our TAC code here, talk around channel. That's what that stands for those of you that might not know. Just so that nobody else can hear us, privacy tone. And again, you only have one option on Simplex. So we'll switch over to CT, code 5. WRDK713, Simplex 575, check.
Picking you up, perfect connection. On my end, I just can't make it to you. WSCW 462.
Copy that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that right there is a perfect example.
No problem. Yeah, I'm still picking you up on Simplex with the HT. I'm outside the repeater. WSCW 462.
Copy that. Thank you very much. That is a perfect example.
Connection. That radio is working real good, brother. WSCW 462. Sorry for saying my call sign 3 times, but that is a very amazing machine.
I apologize for repeating myself here, but again, that is a perfect example of the amount of power that I have with this. He is hearing me absolutely crystal clear. He's about approximately 25 miles away from me over a mountain range, and on Simplex with no repeater and 50 watts, he's able to hear me perfectly clear on the receive side on his handheld. But with his weak little 5-watt handheld, I cannot hear him. So that's the kind of power we're talking about on this thing. Now, one minor detail I should mention is that this radio does come with a small antenna and mag mount in the box. I, however, am using a 6 dB gain Midland whip antenna with this, which does give me a little bit of added range and whatnot. But I just wanted to mention that I am not using the stock antenna that comes with this. I am using a little bit beefier antenna, just to get as much possible range and power as humanly possible out of this thing. Everything about this has been perfect over my last week of testing. I've had no audio issues. I've been able to get Riley's repeater here, which is just on the roof of his house, 60 miles away with 50 watts of power. So you're talking about some very, very serious power here. It blows through trees and obstacles like they're not there with 50 watts of power. And everything about this is absolutely amazing. If you live in a congested area with a lot of trees and other radio interference and whatnot, you're going to have the power to blow through that with this. Another example is if you're in the Midwest and have a vast, expansive, sprawling farm, even with no repeater on Simplex, you're going to be able to go dozens of miles easily with this thing with no audio quality issues whatsoever. Midland has done a very, very good job of fine-tuning the GMRS technology in this, and using a Midland radio with a Midland mag mount and a Midland antenna, nobody else has figured out how to do it better. I've done multiple tests with Riley WSCW 462, where we've switched out antennas and used different brands other than Midland, and we always get the best performance when we use Midland radios with Midland mounts with Midland antennas. Everything always sounds perfect. Everything matches phenomenally. Now, that's not to say you can't use a different brand antenna or a different brand mag mount or, anything like that. Of course you can, but I'm just pointing out the fact that Midland has really nailed it with their partnering of their parts, and everything just works so well together. Everything is so fine-tuned. I did an SWR test with the 6 dB gain whip antenna I'm using on this, and it was virtually at 1 with this radio, mag mount, and the 6 dB gain whip antenna. So it basically doesn't get any better than that. When you're at a perfect SWR like that, everything's matching perfectly and working perfectly together, you're going to get the best performance. And if you want the absolute most power on the market that you could possibly buy right now in 2025, definitely go with the 575. And that about wraps it up for today.
Southwind around 10 miles per hour. Wednesday, most...
Just a quick little demonstration of the weather bands there. You do have your 10 weather bands on here, which is really nice. But that about wraps it up for today. And until next time, this is WRDK713 signing off.